You're watching The Lookout, a production of the Division of World Languages and Cultural Studies here at Minot State University. I'm your host, Samuel Stinson, and on the program today we have Annette Mennem. Annette Mennem is the director of the Native American Center at Minot State and the club advisor of the Minot State Native American Cultural Awareness Club. On April 22nd and 23rd, the Minot State Native American Cultural Awareness Club will be sponsoring the 32nd Annual Honor Dance and Powwow celebration. Annette Mennem has agreed to talk about the history of this event. Annette Mennem, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. Let me use some of my language that I learned here at Minot State. Miigwech, which is Ojibwe for thank you. I'm an enrolled member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe. I'm also a two-time alum from Minot State. I have my elementary ed degree from Minot State, and I also have a master's in management from Minot State.
Annette, let me ask you, since the Powwow celebration is now in its 32nd year, I'm interested to know some of the history of the event. So how did it all get started locally here in Minot?
Back in 1989, Minot State had hired its first Native American center director and created the center. At that point, that person was hired, and the Student Government Association president at that time approached the Native American Center director asking if the club president, that was Bruce Gillette at the time, and Amy Mossett, asking if they would institute a powwow here at Minot State. I guess the Student Government Association had some funds left over at the end of that year or towards the end of that year. So they wanted to spend some money and bring the powwow to Minot State. The first year, it was 1989. It was held in the Beaver Dam, which was the ballroom at that time. It was an afternoon powwow, just like a four or 5 hour afternoon powwow. Later that next year, it was moved and became a whole day, a little bit longer. It was moved to the old gym of Swain. I think it was a way lower level of Swain. And then in 92, they had a new center director, that was Wiley Hammond, came on board. And the powwow then became a 2-day powwow, and then we moved it over to, and it was moved over to the dome at that point. And then in 2011, I started at Minot State as the center director. And so 2012 was my first powwow planning year.
Could you talk a little bit about the special significance of the powwow celebration?
It is the largest student-led activity on campus. You'll find that out because all of the volunteers are students. Almost all of them. We have community as well. The significance of the celebration is to honor our graduates and their families. In indigenous cultures, we honor people when they accomplish something like walking across the graduation stage. We honor them with dance and songs and gatherings and gifts and food. There are two types of powwows. There's a traditional powwow, in general, that is, there are traditional powwow and there's a contest powwow. Minot State, our powwow is a contest powwow. And people follow that circuit all over the United States and Canada competing. Kind of like people say, like a rodeo circuit. Yeah, like a rodeo circuit. There's categories, they compete. There's different categories and styles that they compete from. So that's basically just the gist of it. The significance of the powwow is to honor and to celebrate the achievements of our graduates and their families.
So could you tell me a little bit about who some of the most recent winners of the most recent few competitions have been?
They come from all over North Dakota, from the tribes, because there's 5 reservations in North Dakota, and on those reservations there are tribal nations. So they're represented from all of the North Dakota tribal nations and other tribal nations in surrounding states. When you go to powwows, like I go to a lot of powwows, you start seeing the same. So I can tell you, Sage is my favorite prairie chicken dancer. He is probably one of the best I've seen out there. So I could tell you Sage is my favorite.
And you mentioned prairie chicken. Could you talk a little bit about the dance style, some of the other dance styles that often appear at the events at the powwows?
Yeah. To have a powwow, you need dancers. To have dancers, you need drums. And these are the features of any powwow. At our powwow, the styles that we have men's, traditional, grass, fancy, and prairie chicken style. Now, the grass dance, some powwows, like if the outdoor powwows, the grass dancers will come in first and they'll prepare the grass. for us because they'll dance on it. But the grass dancers, you can tell by their outfits, their regalia, that it mimics the grass. In women's categories, we have traditional, fancy, and jingle. The fancy is with the shawl, and the jingle is the dress that makes the healing dress that makes the noise. Age categories, golden age, adults, teens, and juniors. I recommend checking out powwows.com for your listeners, for videos, for different types of powwows across the United States. And we really do expect people from all over the US and Canada to enter our contests and our drums. We have, from all over the place.
So I was going to ask also, some powwows recently have been canceled in the past few years due to COVID, or had to move to become virtual powwows. Could you talk about how the pandemic impacted the local celebration and local events?
Yeah, we didn't have a 2020 powwow. However, we did manage to have a drive-through powwow, and that was in September of 2020. Minot State partnered up with the Sacred Pipe Resource Center, North Dakota Native Vote, US Census 2020, and we put together this 4-hour powwow. It was up in the circle in front of Old Main. We had a couple drums, we had an announcer, people would enter, we gave them the numbers for their dance categories, and they danced outside in the circle or on the lawn, and people were able to drive up. So it was more than one purpose though, because we wanted to get information out, right? So when people would drive up, we would stop them, give them information about the North Dakota Vote, the Pipeline Resource Center for Native people. And then we asked if they had filled out their census. If they said no, we tagged their vehicle and put them in a separate line to get them to do that while they were there. Then they also got to watch the dancers and do people's choice for their favorite dancer. So we were able to do that in 2020. Other than that, many powwows weren't really happening in 2020. And even some of 2021, they still weren't happening, but we're back.
MSU's The Lookout is an in-depth look at those around the community making an impact. On this week's episode, Samuel Stinson hosts co-editor Mary Lee Rowe about their new edited collection, Embodied Environmental Risk in Technological Communication, Problems and Solutions Towards Social Sustainability. This episode can be found online.
So let's talk a little bit about this year. So what are some of the events that visitors will be able to see at this year's powwow?
Well, the powwow has grown quite a bit from the first year I did it to this past year. So, 2021, the first year we had 4 drums and 4 vendors. That's how you can kind of gauge like it's hard to gauge it by attendance because people come and go out the door all day long, but you look at how many drums, how many dancers, how many vendors you had. So the first year I planned powwow, we had 4 drums, 4 vendors. This last year we had 17 vendors and 22 drums. So it's grown every year. We had over 400 dancers. So besides the drums, the dancers, you'll see a lot of colorful regalia. Now I want to also educate a little bit with our history, because history will do us wrong. They're not costumes. They're called regalia or outfit, and they're very unique to the individual wearing them. That's why I would never put somebody else's regalia on, because it's not mine. They'll see a grand entry, which is parade of dancers. And that is, there's different times, we'll share that a little bit here in a minute. There's vendors from all over the United States. Some of them are native, most of them are Native American artists, but there's a few other novelty vendors that come out as well, and food. The powwow committee sponsors the food booth, and there's various items, everything from fry bread tacos to nachos. We'll have our teepee set up in front of the dome at 3 p.m. the day before the powwow. The day of the powwow, or the day the powwow starts, we'll have the Indigenous garden gathering over across from Model. And then we'll plant our garden later in May. So there's tons of things happening within the end of that week. Anyway, there's a lot of things happening. So look forward to those things.
So my last question, for those who are interested in attending, could you talk about ticket prices and how attendees can find out more information?
Sure. There is no admission. It's free and open to the public. There are various ways to find out information. It is on the Minot State University calendar. It's on the website. Just Google Native American Center. It'll pop up. It's in the newspapers, media, on the news, your program. You can also look for the poster. The Minot, it's MSU Native American Cultural Awareness Club and Center Facebook page. Once you find the poster, just to give you guys some information about, in case you don't get to see the poster right away, grand entry, remember, that's a parade of dancers. That is 7 p.m. on Friday, and then on Saturday at 1 and 7 p.m. And then we will honor the graduates at 8 p.m. on Saturday.
So April 22nd, 23rd, the 32nd annual Honor Dance and Powwow celebration at Minot State University. Annette Mennem, again, thank you so much for being on the program and talking about the history and the upcoming event.
We'll see you in the Dome.
So I recently had a conversation with Ernie Gygax. Ernie Gygax is the son of legendary game designer Gary Gygax. Ernie and I spoke for, well, over 2 hours, actually. In fact, we spoke so long that I had a hard time thinking, well, I want to include some of our conversation on the program. What exactly do I include? So in retrospect, I went back and I chose 3 specific places from our conversation for the meantime to share. So I've organized these 3 clips to show some of the highlights of that 2-hour conversation. In the future, I think I'm going to do something else with that interview, but for the meantime, here are the 3 highlights.
All right, what would you like? Do you want this as, do you want to be feeding me lines and just having me respond? Is that what you would enjoy doing?
I think that sounds great, kind of a back and forth. I'll set up a question and then we can just kind of have some free flow conversation with that, if that sounds good.
Sounds great.
Okay, I'll do a quick intro and then I'll start. Okay. You're watching The Lookout, a production of the Division of World Languages and Cultural Studies here at Minot State University. I'm your host, Samuel Stinson, and on board today we have Ernie Gygax. Ernie Gygax is a game designer. Sorry, I messed that up. Okay, there we go.
The gamer.
A gamer. Well, I was going to say a game designer, son of the original game master, gamer extraordinaire.
Yeah, I really want to play up how I'm almost like, because of whom I am, I'm being forced to repair, work on, and create things where I just really want to get you to my home and have you bring a lot of goodies and we just play. You know, that's just the kind of thing. And life is very nice and calm most of the time. And now that I've been getting a chance to start maybe write some more and work with other people's through the new old licensed TSR, which came from Tactical Studies Rules, a partnership my dad did with Don Kay. Right now we've got just a few products, only 2 products that I have seen and will be out in the pipeline. There's lots of other things that we're working on. And one is a game that would have the same niche that the dungeon game had for TSR in the old days. It's a parlor game with a fantasy theme where you have characters and there will be different things happening, magical traps, geared traps, whatever. You run into a troll giant, you get this item, you get that potion, you get these sorts of things. It's loosely based off a Dungeons and Dragons adventure, Dungeon Crawl, which started as the work of a nice fellow, Don Zamora. And then at some point, he just wants to put out games, and he's been having some difficulty throughout time and things. He's been a printer. And as an ex-printer myself, who did 10 years with Abbott Laboratories printing, it's a dying art that I like to hold books. I like to read books. I like to carry books. I love to be able to back them up on on discs, or not discs. Boy, that's really bad. Thumb drives now. I used to have VHS tapes too, about 800 of them at some time. 400 of them melted in the fire, or just enough, degraded the tape enough that I said it's not worth trying to see if I could find another working VCR. But otherwise, I just love gaming, and I have people over to the house all the time. If I just use my platform that I use is just Facebook, and all my photo albums are open to the public to look at. And it's Ernest Gary Gygax Jr. Or it could be Ernest G. Gygax, but I think it's Ernest Gary Gygax Jr. And
on Facebook.
Yep, on Facebook. And then come to Lake Geneva, come and play games. I hope you come and check out the museum, as well as if you make some contact, whatever else, come. And maybe we can get you into a big Dungeons and Dragons game, or even just a couple games of Liar's Dice, as we all tell stories about our own gaming experiences in the past, over some sort of tasty grub and some delicious beverages.
Well, we've reached that point in the program again where we have to bid you adieu, but thank you again for watching the MSU Lookout. And as we always say at this point in the show, this is Minot State University. Be seen, be heard, be inspired. And thanks again for watching.